Two, there is a dangerous mistake people make when they become close to someone. They begin to believe that friendship automatically creates loyalty. They assume that because someone laughs with them, shares memories with them, or has stood beside them in good times, that person will always protect their interests. Do not confuse friendship with loyalty, because being close to someone does not automatically mean that the person will always act in your best interest. Friendship is built through shared experiences, conversations, memories, and emotional connection. But loyalty is revealed through behavior when circumstances become difficult. A person can enjoy your company and genuinely care about you while still becoming jealous, competitive, selfish, or unreliable when their own interests are threatened. Understanding this difference does not mean becoming suspicious of everyone. It means becoming more realistic about human behavior and recognizing that trust should be based on evidence rather than labels. Many people assume that because someone has been their friend for years, that person must be loyal. Time alone, however, does not prove character. Someone can remain in your life for a decade without ever being tested by a serious conflict, major opportunity, financial pressure, or situation where your interests and theirs move in different directions. Until circumstances create pressure, you may not know how someone truly behaves. Loyalty becomes clearer when there is something to lose. Watch what happens when you succeed. A genuine friend can celebrate your progress without feeling personally diminished by it. An insecure person may begin making subtle comparisons, minimizing your achievements, or becoming distant because your success reminds them of what they believe they lack. Watch what happens when you disagree. A loyal friend can disagree with you without immediately turning the disagreement into an attack on your character. They can tell you uncomfortable truths while still respecting you. Someone who requires constant agreement may not be loyal to you. They may simply be loyal to the version of you that makes them comfortable. Another important test is what happens when you establish boundaries. Friendship does not give another person unlimited access to your time, money, attention, private information, or decisions. A trustworthy friend may be disappointed by a boundary, but they can respect it. A person who becomes hostile whenever you say no may reveal that they valued access more than friendship. This distinction is important because some relationships survive only while one person continues giving without limits. Once the giving stops, the relationship changes. That reveals what was actually holding it together. Loyalty also means protecting your dignity when you are not present. Pay attention to how someone speaks about other friends when those people are absent. If they constantly reveal private information, mock people they claim to love, or use secrets as entertainment, there is reason to assume they may eventually treat your private information the same way. Character tends to create patterns. You should also avoid assuming that loyalty means unconditional agreement. A person who always tells you what you want to hear may feel supportive, but sometimes real loyalty requires honesty. A good friend may tell you that your plan is unrealistic, that your behavior was wrong, or that you are making a decision that could harm you. The purpose is not humiliation, but protection. Someone who disagrees respectfully can be more valuable than someone who constantly applauds you. At the same time, you should examine your own behavior. Do not demand loyalty while giving people reasons to distrust you. If you want friends who protect your confidence, protect theirs. If you want people to respect your boundaries, respect theirs. If you want honest relationships, become capable of hearing difficult truths without punishing the person who delivers them. Trust should grow through repeated evidence. You do not need to test people through artificial games or manipulate situations to expose them. Simply observe how they behave naturally across different circumstances. Notice whether their words and actions match. Notice whether they remain respectful when they are frustrated. Notice whether they celebrate your success, respect your independence, and remain present when there is nothing obvious to gain. Friendship creates familiarity, but loyalty requires character. Once you understand that distinction, you become less likely to give unlimited trust simply because someone has earned the title of friend. You can care about people deeply while still maintaining judgment. You can appreciate friendship without surrendering your boundaries. You can trust without becoming blind. And you can allow relationships to prove themselves through consistent behavior rather than demanding certainty from a label. Watch actions, not promises, because words are easy to produce, while consistent behavior requires effort, sacrifice, and character. People can tell you exactly what you want to hear, make impressive promises, express loyalty, and speak confidently about what they intend to do, but none of those things guarantee that their behavior will match their claims. This is especially important when deciding whom to trust. Instead of becoming impressed by declarations, pay attention to patterns. If someone repeatedly says they will help but disappears when you actually need them, the pattern tells you more than the promise. If someone constantly talks about respecting your privacy but regularly shares other people's secrets, their behavior gives you useful information. If someone says they support your success but repeatedly minimizes your achievements, their actions deserve more attention than their compliments. This does not mean assuming that every mistake proves bad character. People can fail, forget, become overwhelmed, or make poor decisions without intending to betray anyone. The important question is whether the behavior is occasional or part of a repeated pattern. One mistake may require a conversation. A consistent pattern requires caution. Time is one of the best tools for understanding people because sustained behavior is difficult to fake indefinitely. Someone can maintain a perfect image for a short period, but eventually pressure, disappointment, competition, or temptations reveals habits that words were able to hide. Watch how people behave when they do not get what they want. Watch how they treat someone who cannot benefit them. Watch how they respond when another person receives recognition. Watch whether they take responsibility when they make mistakes. These situations reveal more than casual conversations because they create conditions where character matters. You should also pay attention to the gap between what someone says about themselves and what they consistently do. A person may describe themselves as honest, generous, disciplined, or loyal, but self-description is not proof. The evidence is in their decisions. Someone who claims to value honesty but constantly lies when honesty becomes inconvenient is showing you something important. Someone who says they value friendship but disappears whenever you need support is giving you information. Someone who says they respect your boundaries but repeatedly pressures you after you say no is demonstrating that their words and actions are not aligned. When you notice this gap, do not waste endless energy trying to convince the person to become different. Observe, evaluate, and adjust your level of trust accordingly. This principle also applies to yourself. If you want to become someone others can trust, make your actions consistent with your words. Keep reasonable promises. If you cannot fulfill something, communicate honestly. Do not make commitments simply to impress people. Your reputation is built through repeated behavior, and people eventually learn whether your word has weight. Trust grows when someone repeatedly does what they said they would do. Actions also matter because they reveal priorities. A person may say that family, friendship, integrity, or growth is important, but look at how they spend their time. Time and attention are often more honest than statements. People reveal what matters to them through what they repeatedly choose. This does not mean judging every person harshly, because everyone has competing responsibilities. But consistent choices can reveal genuine priorities. You should also avoid becoming obsessed with analyzing every small behavior. Not every delayed message is betrayal. Not every disagreement is disrespect. Not every failure to help means someone is a bad friend. Wisdom requires context. Look for repeated patterns rather than isolated incidents. Ask whether the behavior is understandable under the circumstances, whether the person takes responsibility, and whether they make an effort to correct mistakes. A trustworthy person does not need to be perfect. They need to demonstrate a pattern of honesty, accountability, respect, and consistency. When you learn to observe actions rather than promises, you become less vulnerable to manipulation because you stop allowing impressive words to replace evidence. You can appreciate what people say while allowing their behavior to determine how much trust you give them. Trust then becomes something earned gradually through experience instead of something granted immediately because someone knows how to speak convincingly. Keep your boundaries even with close people because familiarity can sometimes create the dangerous assumption that someone deserves unlimited access to your life simply because you care about them. Friendship, family, or emotional closeness does not erase the need for personal limits. In fact, healthy relationships often become stronger when both people understand where one person's responsibility ends and the other's begins. Well, a boundary is not a wall designed to punish people. It is a clear statement about what you will accept, what you will protect, and how you expect to be treated. Without boundaries, relationships can slowly become unbalanced. One person gives more time, more money, more attention, more emotional energy, or more forgiveness, while the other becomes accustomed to receiving without considering the cost. Eventually, resentment develops because the person giving feels used, but they may have never clearly communicated their limits. This is why boundaries must be established before frustration becomes bitterness. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. You do not have to accept every request simply because it comes from someone you care about. If a friend asks you to sacrifice something important every time they need help, you can support them while still explaining what you are able to do. A respectful person may be disappointed, but they should understand that your life contains responsibilities beyond the friendship. If someone becomes angry simply because you refused a request, pay attention to the pattern. Their reaction does not automatically prove that they are a bad person, but repeated attempts to punish you for having reasonable boundaries reveal something important about the relationship. You should also protect your private information. Being close to someone does not mean you must reveal every fear, weakness, financial detail, personal plan, or sensitive experience. Trust should develop gradually. Share deeply with people who have demonstrated that they can handle sensitive information responsibly. If someone repeatedly shares other people's secrets, be careful about giving them yours. Privacy is not dishonesty, it is discretion. You should also maintain independence. Healthy friendship allows two people to have separate goals, opinions, relationships, interests, and responsibilities. If you feel that you must constantly seek permission for your choices or change your personality to keep someone satisfied, the relationship may have become controlling. You can love someone while disagreeing with them. You can appreciate their advice without surrendering your judgment. You can listen carefully and still make your own decision. Strong boundaries also apply to emotional manipulation. Sometimes people use guilt, silence, anger, threats, or repeated accusations to pressure others into giving them what they want. When you recognize this pattern, avoid responding with equal aggression. Remain calm and communicate your position clearly. You do not need to justify every decision for hours. A simple explanation can be enough. I understand that you are disappointed, but this is my decision. Can communicate firmness without creating unnecessary hostility. Boundaries should also be consistent. If you establish a limit but repeatedly abandon it whenever someone pushes back, people may learn that persistence will eventually defeat your decision. This does not mean becoming rigid. Circumstances can change, and flexibility is healthy when it comes from your choice rather than pressure. The important thing is that you remain conscious of why you are changing the boundary. Do not confuse kindness with unlimited availability. You can be generous without allowing people to exploit your generosity. You can forgive without repeatedly accepting the same harmful behavior. You can help someone without becoming responsible for solving every problem in their life. You should also respect the boundaries of others. If you demand that your privacy be protected, protect theirs. If you expect people to respect your time, respect theirs. If you want freedom to make your own decisions, give them the same freedom. Boundaries work best when they are mutual rather than one-sided. The deeper purpose of boundaries is to protect the quality of a relationship, not simply to protect yourself from people. When expectations are clear, resentment has less room to grow. People know what they can reasonably expect from you, and you know what you can reasonably expect from them. This creates healthier relationships because closeness is no longer based on unlimited access or constant sacrifice. Trust can grow without destroying individuality. You can care deeply about someone while still maintaining your standards, protecting your time, and preserving your independence. That balance allows friendship to remain a choice rather than becoming an obligation. And it helps you recognize whether someone values you as a person or simply values what they can obtain from you. Do not reveal everything about yourself because privacy is a form of wisdom, especially when trust has not yet been fully earned. Many people believe that deep friendship requires complete openness, so they quickly share their fears, weaknesses, ambitions, financial situations, family problems, personal plans, and private experiences with anyone who makes them feel comfortable. Emotional closeness can create a powerful sense of connection, but feeling close to someone is not the same as knowing whether that person can responsibly handle sensitive information. Trust should develop gradually through observation and experience. You do not need to become secretive or suspicious, but you should understand that not every person deserves access to every part of your life. Information has value because once something private has been revealed, you cannot completely take it back. A secret shared with one person can eventually reach another person, sometimes through gossip, anger, misunderstanding, or simple carelessness. This is why you should pay attention to how people treat information that already belongs to others. If someone constantly tells you the private stories of their friends, coworkers, or family members, do not assume that your secrets will receive different treatment. Their behavior is evidence of their relationship with confidentiality. This does not mean you should judge someone permanently because of one careless mistake. Look for patterns. Someone who repeatedly uses private information as entertainment, weapon, or social currency is showing you that they may not understand the responsibility that comes with trust. You should also learn to separate different levels of information. There are things that can be shared casually, things that should be shared only with trusted people, and things that may need to remain private even within close relationships. Your goals, for example, do not always need to be announced before they become reality. Constantly explaining your plans can create unnecessary pressure and invite opinions from people who do not understand your circumstances. Sometimes quiet preparation is more productive than public declaration. The same principle applies to weaknesses. Vulnerability can strengthen genuine relationships, but vulnerability should be intentional. Sharing a weakness with someone trustworthy can create deeper understanding, while sharing it carelessly can give the wrong person information they may later use against you. You should not be ashamed of having weaknesses. You should simply be selective about who gets access to them. Privacy also protects your ability to change. If you announce every decision, every goal, and every transformation to everyone around you, you may begin performing your life for an audience. You become concerned with proving that you are consistent with what you previously said instead of allowing yourself to learn and adjust. Sometimes growth requires changing direction. You are allowed to reconsider a plan without explaining every step to everyone. Another important reason to protect information is that people change. Someone may be trustworthy today and behave differently under future circumstances. Friendship can survive disagreements, but pressure, jealousy, financial conflict, competition, or major life changes can alter relationships. This does not mean expecting betrayal. It means recognizing that human behavior is influenced by circumstances. Do not give another person unnecessary power over you by revealing information they could use to manipulate, embarrass, or pressure you later. At the same time, privacy should never become an excuse for dishonesty. There is a major difference between keeping something personal and deliberately deceiving someone. Healthy relationships require honesty about matters that genuinely affect the other person. The goal is not to hide your entire life, but to develop discretion about what belongs in private and what should be communicated openly. You should also avoid collecting other people's secrets simply because they make you feel important. If someone trusts you with sensitive information, treat that trust as a responsibility rather than a source of social power. Do not repeat what was told to you simply because it makes you interesting in a conversation. Protecting another person's privacy demonstrates character. Over time, people notice who can be trusted with information and who cannot. The strongest approach is balanced. Be warm without being careless. Be open without being exposed. Build relationships while allowing trust to develop through repeated evidence. You do not need to tell everyone everything to prove that you are genuine. Sometimes the ability to remain silent, protect sensitive information, and reveal yourself gradually demonstrates greater confidence than constant openness. When you control what you reveal, you protect your privacy, preserve your independence, and give relationships the time they need to prove whether deeper trust is truly deserved. Test trust through time and circumstances because trust should be built through repeated evidence rather than granted entirely because someone makes you feel comfortable. People often become close quickly when they share interests, experiences, humor, or emotional conversations, but early closeness can create an illusion of certainty. You may feel that you understand someone because you have spent many hours talking to them, yet conversation alone cannot reveal how that person will behave when pressure, disappointment, competition, or temptation appears. Time gives you the opportunity to observe patterns without needing to manipulate or create artificial situations. Simply allow life to reveal people naturally. Notice how someone behaves when plans change, when they are frustrated, when they are corrected, when they do not receive what they expected, and when another person succeeds. These ordinary circumstances can reveal more about character than impressive conversations ever will. One of the clearest tests of trust is how someone responds to your success. A trustworthy friend does not need you to remain behind them so that they can feel secure. They can celebrate your progress without turning your achievement into a competition. They may have their own ambitions, but they do not need to reduce your success to protect their ego. If someone repeatedly becomes cold, dismissive, sarcastic, or resentful whenever good things happen to you, that pattern deserves attention. Another test is how they respond when you establish boundaries. If you say no to a request, change your availability, or make an independent decision, observe whether they respect your choice. Healthy relationships can survive boundaries because both people understand that closeness does not mean ownership. A person who repeatedly pressures you, uses guilt, or becomes hostile whenever you assert yourself may be showing that they value control more than mutual respect. Difficult conversations are another important test. Everyone eventually disagrees. The question is not whether conflict happens, but how conflict is handled. Can the person listen without immediately becoming defensive? Can they admit when they are wrong? Can they disagree without humiliating you? Can both of you discuss a problem without turning it into a battle for dominance? Someone who can handle disagreement with maturity may be more trustworthy than someone who is pleasant only when everything goes their way. You should also observe whether the person takes responsibility for mistakes. Trust does not require perfection. Everyone fails sometimes. What matters is whether the person acknowledges the mistake, makes an effort to repair the damage, and changes the behavior when necessary. Someone who constantly blames everyone else may create problems because they never examine their own role. Accountability is a strong indicator of character. Another useful observation is how someone treats people who have little power over them. Watch how they speak to service workers, employees, strangers, beginners, or people who cannot provide them with an advantage. Courtesy that appears only when something can be gained may not represent genuine character. Consistent respect is more meaningful. Circumstances also reveal whether someone's loyalty depends on convenience. A person may be enthusiastic when friendship provides entertainment, attention, or social benefits. But what happens when supporting you requires time, patience, or effort? They do not need to sacrifice everything for you, but repeated willingness to help when it is reasonable can reveal genuine care. At the same time, do not create tests designed to trap people. You do not need to invent emergencies or manipulate situations just to see whether someone will pass. Such behavior can damage relationships and create the very distrust you are trying to avoid. Instead, observe natural events. Let reality provide the evidence. Trust should also be adjustable. Someone does not need to be classified permanently as trustworthy or untrustworthy. A person can earn more trust through consistent behavior, or they can lose trust through repeated violations. This allows relationships to develop without requiring blind certainty. The goal is not to become suspicious of everyone. The goal is to become patient. Give people enough time to demonstrate who they are. Pay attention to patterns rather than isolated moments. When someone repeatedly respects your boundaries, protects your privacy, keeps reasonable promises, supports your growth, and takes responsibility for mistakes, trust becomes more justified. When their behavior repeatedly contradicts their words, reduce access accordingly. Time and circumstances cannot reveal everything, but they reveal far more than instant emotional closeness ever can. Let people prove themselves naturally and allow your level of trust to grow at the same pace as the evidence. Trust wisely without becoming paranoid, because there is a dangerous difference between being careful and living in constant suspicion. After learning that friendship does not automatically guarantee loyalty, some people make the opposite mistake and begin believing that everyone around them is secretly trying to harm them. They analyze every message, question every compliment, interpret every disagreement as betrayal, and assume that anyone who succeeds around them must be jealous. This mindset may feel protective, but it eventually destroys the very relationships that could have provided genuine support. Wisdom is not believing everyone is your enemy. Wisdom is understanding that trust should be earned gradually while still allowing people the opportunity to prove their character. You do not need to become emotionally distant to become intelligent about relationships. You can be warm, generous, and open while maintaining reasonable boundaries. The first principle is to avoid judging people based on isolated incidents. Everyone makes mistakes. A friend may forget something, respond poorly during a stressful day, misunderstand your intentions, or fail to help when they genuinely cannot. One disappointing moment does not automatically reveal betrayal. Look at patterns instead. Does the person repeatedly disrespect you? Do they consistently break promises? Do they reveal private information? Do they become hostile whenever you succeed? Do they repeatedly manipulate your emotions? Patterns provide stronger evidence than isolated events. You should also learn to distinguish disagreement from disloyalty. A friend who challenges your decision may actually care enough to tell you something uncomfortable. If you interpret every criticism as an attack, you will surround yourself with people who are afraid to tell you the truth. Genuine relationships require room for disagreement. Someone can oppose your opinion while still respecting you. In fact, a person who always agrees with you may be less useful than someone who can calmly point out your mistakes. Another important principle is to maintain proportional trust. Not every person needs the same level of access to your life. You can trust someone with ordinary conversations without trusting them with your most private information. You can work with someone professionally without depending on them emotionally. You can appreciate someone's friendship while still maintaining independence. Trust does not have to be all or nothing. It can grow according to evidence. This approach protects you without forcing you into isolation. You should also avoid allowing past betrayal to control every future relationship. If someone has hurt you before, it is natural to become more cautious. But carrying the behavior of one person onto everyone else can prevent you from recognizing genuine people. Learn from the experience without allowing it to become your identity. Ask what warning signs you missed, what boundaries you should have established, and what you can do differently next time. Then move forward. Faith can also help maintain balance. If you believe that God is guiding your life, you do not need to live in constant fear of what other people might do. You can use wisdom while trusting that you do not need to control every relationship. Protect yourself where necessary, but do not let fear consume your peace. Pray, reflect, observe, and act with discernment. You should also become the kind of person you want to trust. Keep confidences, respect boundaries, celebrate other people's success. Admit mistakes, communicate honestly. When your own behavior is consistent, you become better at recognizing consistency in others. The goal is not to build a life where nobody can hurt you. Complete protection is impossible. The goal is to build enough judgment that you can recognize trustworthy people, respond intelligently to unreliable behavior, and continue forming meaningful relationships without surrendering your independence. Trust should be neither blind nor absent. It should be deliberate, gradual, and based on evidence. Be open enough to experience genuine friendship, but wise enough to protect what is valuable.